Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring this book, Living from the Heart.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, have you heard of this one?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, so it's all about like this idea of shifting our awareness, from our heads to our hearts and bellies.
Okay.
And it's about experiencing the world in a whole new way. And it uses this really interesting analogy of maybe ducks.
Okay.
You know how they like imprint on the first thing they see and then they follow it around everywhere?
Right, yeah.
So the book suggests that our awareness can get kind of fixated or stuck on certain things like our thoughts.
Okay.
And we start to believe that we are those thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
rather than like the awareness itself being something much bigger.
Right. Yeah, it's a fascinating premise. The book actually refers to this as the head trap.
The head trap.
Yeah, it's like we get so caught up in that constant mental chatter
Yeah.
that our perspective really shrinks. It's like, imagine trying to experience the vastness of the ocean,
Okay.
but you're looking through a drinking straw. That's what it can feel like to be trapped in our heads.
Okay, so it's like we're trading a panoramic view for this tiny little people.
Exactly. And the book uses this great example of blocking the moon with your thumb.
Okay.
Even though the moon is this massive celestial body,
Yeah.
our little thumb held up close to our eye can make it completely disappear.
Right.
And I think it really highlights how our thoughts, though they may be small in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah.
can feel all-consuming when we're giving them our constant attention.
That's such a powerful visual.
Yeah.
So if we're always stuck in our heads, like what are we missing out on?
Well, the book argues that this head-centered perspective leads to a lot of unnecessary suffering.
Okay.
We blow things out of proportion. We get lost in worries, and we find it almost impossible to quiet our minds.
Yeah.
It's like we're constantly on edge, just reacting to every little thought that pops up.
So it's not just about, feeling calmer. It's actually about experiencing the world in a fundamentally different way.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The book suggests shifting our awareness to the heart center.
Okay.
And it's important to note, it's not about visualizing a glowing orb in our chest or anything like that.
Right.
It's about literally experiencing our surroundings as if our perception were originating from the heart.
So it's not about like feeling emotions more strongly. It's about actually perceiving everything from a different place.
Exactly. And the book describes the heart's perspective as being wider, softer, more expansive.
Okay.
There's a sense of oneness with what we're experiencing, and thoughts become less intrusive.
Mm-hmm.
It gives this analogy of like a television playing in the attic. You can still hear it,
Okay.
but the sound is distant and less impactful.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's not that our thoughts disappear completely.
No.
It's that they kind of lose their grip on us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the book claims that this shift to the heart, brings a sense of ease and spaciousness. We start to experience things more fully without all that mental clutter.
It sounds incredible.
Yeah.
But it's not just about the heart, right? The book also talks about the belly as an important center of awareness.
That's right. The belly represents a different kind of perspective,
Okay.
one that's especially helpful during, challenging times.
Okay.
It's about connecting to a sense of beingness, this unshakable strength that enables us to take action without being completely swept away by our emotions.
Right.
Think of like a boulder at the bottom of a lake.
Okay.
It remains solid and unmoved even as the currents are swirling all around it.
So the belly provides a sense of grounding and stability.
Yes, and the book emphasizes that the true heart really encompasses all three centers,
Okay.
head, heart, and belly.
So it's not about choosing one over the others.
No, not at all.
It's about learning to utilize each perspective.
Right.
Depending on the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The head is still incredibly useful for, things like analysis and planning.
Right.
But we can choose to shift to the heart or the belly when we need a different perspective.
Yeah. And the book even suggests that we can eventually experience like looking from everywhere at once.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, tapping into like this sense of infinite space and being.
Yeah, that sounds intriguing. But I mean, let's be honest. Shifting our awareness like this probably isn't easy.
You're absolutely right.
I mean, we've spent years, living in our heads.
Yeah, and the book acknowledges that, ingrained habits and past experiences can make it challenging to connect with the heart or belly.
Yeah.
We might even feel resistance or discomfort.
So what do we do when that happens?
The book suggests a very gentle approach.
Okay.
It's about, sinking deeper into the heart or belly
Okay.
and just giving space to whatever arises, even if it's pain or resistance.
Okay.
It's not about forcing anything.
Right.
It's about allowing ourselves to experience these centers with curiosity and compassion.
So it's like easing into it rather than trying to force a sudden shift.
Exactly. It's a process. And the book assures us that even small shifts in awareness can have a profound impact on our experience.
Well, I'm definitely intrigued. Now, I know the book goes into a lot of detail about how this heart-centered living
Right.
plays out in different areas of our lives.
Yeah.
So let's dive into like how this shift can transform our experience of things like thoughts, emotions, desires, relationships.
Okay, yeah. Let's start with how this shift impacts our relationship with our own thoughts.
Okay.
The book argues that, when we're stuck in our heads, we tend to overthink, analyze, endlessly turn molehills into mountains.
Oh, I know that feeling all too well.
Right. So how does the heart help with that? Well,
Yeah.
instead of trying to control or suppress our thoughts,
Right.
which often only amplifies them,
Mm-hmm.
the heart allows them to simply be. Imagine your emotions are like waves.
Okay.
The mind tries to build walls against them,
Yeah.
creates more turbulence.
Right.
The heart is like the open ocean.
Right.
It allows the waves to simply pass through.
So instead of getting caught up in the waves, we become this vast ocean that contains them.
Exact, because the heart's perspective is so much more spacious.
Yeah.
Our thoughts naturally lose their grip on us.
Okay.
Instead of feeling overwhelmed by them, we can observe them with a sense of detachment.
Okay. That's a really helpful image. So what about emotions? Those can feel pretty intense,
Absolutely.
especially when we're trying to suppress them or we get overwhelmed by them.
Yeah, the book emphasizes that trying to control our emotions often only makes them stronger.
Right.
The heart, on the other hand, provides a space where emotions can exist without needing to be managed or resisted.
So instead of being trapped in our heads, battling our feelings, we can allow them to be present without feeling consumed by them.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's not about denying or suppressing emotions.
Right.
It's about allowing them to flow through us without getting stuck.
That sounds incredibly liberating. But what about desires? You know, those cravings and impulses that can sometimes lead us down unhelpful paths.
Right. The book highlights this really interesting point about desires,
Okay.
that when we experience them from the heart, their pull actually weakens. We're less likely to act impulsively or get caught in those cycles of wanting, getting, and wanting more.
So instead of being controlled by our desires, we can make choices that are more aligned with our values.
Yes. The heart allows us to see those desires more clearly without getting swept away by them.
Okay.
It's not about denying our desires.
Right.
It's about experiencing them from a more spacious and balanced place.
I can already see how this shift in perspective could make a huge difference in how we navigate like life's challenges.
Absolutely. And this applies to our relationships as well.
Okay.
The book argues that when we're stuck in our heads,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to approach relationships with judgment, defensiveness, and a lack of presence.
I think we've all been guilty of that at some point.
Indeed.
Yeah.
But the book suggests that heart-centered awareness allows for a much deeper connection
Okay.
because we're able to perceive others more fully. We're less caught up in our own heads
Right.
and more open to truly seeing and appreciating the other person.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about stepping out of our own mental chatter and really being present with the other person.
Exactly. And this shift in awareness can even transform our relationship with our own bodies.
Okay.
The book points out that many of us struggle with over-identifying with our physical appearance
Right.
and constantly striving for, some unattainable ideal.
That's something I think a lot of people can relate to, myself included.
For sure.
Yeah.
The book suggests that the heart's perspective allows us to move beyond the limitations of body image.
Yeah.
We're able to embrace our physical sensations with greater acceptance and enjoyment
Mm-hmm.
rather than being fixated on, perceived flaws.
Right.
We can appreciate our bodies as they are without needing to change them.
That's such a powerful message. And it makes me wonder, how does this heart-centered approach apply to dealing with pain,
Okay.
like both physical and emotional?
Yeah, when we experience pain through the lens of the mind, we often compound our suffering with fear, resistance, and judgments. The book suggests that the heart allows for a more direct experience of pain,
Okay.
separating it from those mental layers that are amplifying our suffering.
So it's about being present with the sensation without all the added mental baggage.
Precisely.
Yeah.
This isn't about ignoring pain,
Right.
but recognizing that our resistance often amplifies it.
Mm-hmm.
The heart offers a way to experience pain without that added layer of mental anguish.
Wow. That's profound. And it makes me think about this concept of the heart as a truth detector that the book talks about. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah, the book suggests that the heart is constantly responding to to the degree of truth that we're experiencing in each moment.
Okay.
So when we encounter something that resonates with our deepest truth, our heart opens and expands.
Mm.
But when we encounter something that's not aligned with our truth, our heart contracts.
So it's like our heart is giving us feedback on the quality of our, thoughts, beliefs, and experiences.
Exactly. And the fascinating thing is that this wisdom is inherent. We don't need special training to access it.
Right.
We just need to pay attention to those subtle sensations in our heart.
That's really empowering. And it makes me wonder if even those moments when our heart contracts can be valuable.
Absolutely. Those moments when our heart contracts can actually be incredibly insightful.
Okay.
They reveal the limited nature of certain thoughts or beliefs, prompting us to question them and explore new perspectives.
That's interesting. So it's not about, trying to avoid those moments of contraction. It's
Yeah.
about using them as an opportunity to learn and grow.
Exactly.
This is all so fascinating. And I know the book goes even deeper, exploring the true nature of love.
Yes.
But before we dive into that, let's take a moment to recap what we've covered so far.
Okay, sounds good. We've explored the idea of shifting our awareness from the head to the heart and belly, highlighting how this shift can transform our experience of thoughts, emotions, desires, and even pain.
Right. And we've also touched on this concept of the heart as a truth detector,
Yeah.
constantly responding to the level of truth we experience in each moment.
That's right. And we've seen how this heart-centered approach can lead to a more spacious and joyful way of being in the world,
Yeah.
allowing us to connect more deeply with ourselves, others, and even the world around us.
This has been a really insightful dive so far, and I'm excited to continue exploring these ideas.
Me too.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the book's really radical perspective on love,
Okay.
discovering how it's not something we receive from others, but an outward flow of awareness that originates from within.
Sounds good.
Stay tuned for that. We'll be right back after a short break.
Okay.
Welcome back. So we're in the middle of this deep dive into living from the heart. And now we're going to get into one of the most intriguing ideas, I think, the true source of love.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Uh-huh.
The book presents love not as something we receive from others,
Okay.
but as something that flows outward from within. And it really challenges that common belief that we need someone or something else to complete us.
So instead of seeking love externally, we become the source of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like flipping the script completely.
Yeah, that's a pretty radical shift from how we usually think about love. I mean, we're so conditioned to believe that we need to find love or earn it or deserve it somehow.
Right. And that can lead to a lot of, searching and striving,
Mm-hmm.
which ultimately leaves us feeling empty.
Yeah.
The book argues that the key to experiencing true love is to shift our focus from receiving to giving.
So it's not about what we can get from love, but what we can give.
Precisely.
Yeah.
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 And it even offers specific exercises for cultivating this outward flow of love.
Okay.
Imagine looking at a tree, not just to admire its beauty, but to actually send it love through your eyes.
Wow. That's an interesting practice. I mean, it sounds a little unusual, but I can see how it could shift our perspective.
Yeah. The book suggests that, by sending love through our senses, we start to perceive the world differently.
Okay.
We begin to see the inherent beauty and perfection in everything, even the mundane.
So instead of constantly looking for what's missing or what we need to fix, we start to see the world with more appreciation and gratitude.
Exactly. And these practices aren't limited to just our physical senses. The book encourages us to send love to our thoughts, our emotions, even to empty space.
That's a really expansive way of thinking about love. It's like we're actively choosing to fill the world with love rather than waiting for it to come to us.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And the book claims that as we cultivate this outward flow, we naturally begin to experience more joy, connection, and fulfillment in our lives.
It sounds amazing. But I have a question. If love is our true nature, something that's already within us, why do we need to practice sending it?
That's a great question.
Mhm.
And the book actually addresses this directly. It acknowledges that, love is our inherent nature, always present.
Okay.
But years of conditioning can create blockages that make it difficult for us to experience that fullness.
So it's like we've built up these walls around our hearts, and these practices help us to break them down and allow love to flow more freely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These exercises are about cultivating a new habit, a new way of being in the world. And as we do that, the experience of love becomes more and more natural, more and more integrated into our lives.
It's like we're rediscovering something that was always there, but that we'd somehow forgotten.
That's a beautiful way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's about remembering who we truly are, beings of love, capable of experiencing and expressing love in its purest form.
This whole conversation is making me think about those times when I feel anything but loving. Those moments of anger or frustration or resentment. Does the book address how to handle those feelings from a heart-centered perspective?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
The book acknowledges that these difficult emotions are part of the human experience.
Right.
And it emphasizes that instead of trying to suppress or deny these feelings,
Mm.
we can actually approach them with the same loving awareness that we bring to everything else.
Okay, so instead of judging ourselves for having those negative emotions, we can acknowledge them with compassion and curiosity.
Exactly. Yeah. The book suggests that even those challenging emotions can be a source of wisdom and growth if we're willing to explore them from a heart-centered perspective.
Mm.
So instead of resisting them, we can allow them to flow through us, recognizing that they too are part of the tapestry of our experience.
So even those moments when we feel furthest from love can actually be opportunities for learning and growth.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The book encourages us to view all of our experiences, even the challenging ones, as opportunities to cultivate more love and compassion, both for ourselves and for others.
It's a whole different way of looking at things.
Yeah, it really is. It's about recognizing that love isn't just about feeling good. It's about embracing the fullness of our human experience, with all its complexities and nuances.
This is really shifting my perspective on what it means to live from the heart. It's not about trying to be perfect or always feeling blissful, but about bringing a quality of loving awareness to every aspect of our lives.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to summarize it. It's about approaching life with an open heart, a willingness to see the good in everything and everyone, a commitment to expressing love in all that we do.
This has been such a rich and insightful exploration of living from the heart. We've covered so much ground, from shifting our awareness to the heart and belly to embracing love as an outward flow.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
I know. And I know the book delves even deeper into some really fascinating concepts.
It does. There's so much more to explore. The book goes into detail about the interconnectedness of all things, the nature of true freedom, and the power of living in alignment with our highest purpose.
Wow, it sounds like there's a whole universe of wisdom within these pages.
All right.
I'm eager to hear what else we uncover as we continue our deep dive.
Me too. In the next part, we'll delve into some of those deeper concepts, exploring the wisdom of the heart and how it can guide us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Stay with us. We'll be right back after a short break. All right, so we're back and ready to dive into the last part of our exploration of living from the heart. We've been talking about this idea of the heart as a truth detector, and now I'm really curious to hear more about what the book calls the wisdom of the heart.
Yeah, this is where it gets really powerful. The book suggests that the heart isn't just a source of emotions,
Okay.
but also a wellspring of deep wisdom and intuitive knowing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the heart has its own intelligence, a way of perceiving truth that goes beyond the rational mind.
So it's not about thinking our way into wisdom, but tapping into something deeper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The book argues that we often get so stuck in our heads
Yeah.
trying to figure everything out with logic and analysis,
Mm.
but the heart offers a different path,
Mhm.
one that's more intuitive and experiential.
That makes me think of those times when I've had a gut feeling about something,
Yeah.
even though I couldn't really explain it logically.
Right.
Could that be an example of the heart's wisdom?
It certainly could be. The book emphasizes that the heart speaks to us through these subtle sensations, feelings, and intuitions.
Oh.
It's not always loud or dramatic,
Mm.
but it's a constant presence guiding us toward what's true and what's
Yeah.
aligned with our deepest selves.
So how do we learn to tune into this wisdom of the heart? Is it something we can cultivate, or is it more about getting out of the way and allowing it to emerge?
I think it's a bit of both. The book encourages us to practice listening to our heart's whispers,
Okay.
paying attention to those subtle feelings and intuitions that arise.
Mm.
But at the same time, it acknowledges that we often block those signals with our own mental chatter,
Right.
doubts, and fears.
So it's about quieting the mind and creating space for the heart's wisdom to come through.
Yes, exactly. And the book offers some specific practices for doing this. Things like meditation,
Okay.
spending time in nature,
Mm-hmm.
even just slowing down and paying attention to our inner experience.
Right. This makes me wonder, what are some signs that we might be out of touch with our heart's wisdom?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
The book suggests that when we're disconnected from the heart, we tend to feel lost, confused, and unfulfilled.
Okay.
We might make choices that don't really align with our true values. Or we might constantly be seeking external validation and approval.
So those feelings of emptiness and lack of direction could be a sign that we need to reconnect with our hearts.
Yeah, it's certainly a possibility worth exploring. The book reminds us that our hearts are always guiding us,
Hmm.
but it's up to us to create the space to listen.
This is making me think about all the choices I make in life. Like, how can we actually use this wisdom of the heart to guide our decision making?
Yeah, well, the book suggests that instead of just weighing the pros and cons
Right.
or making choices based on fear or logic,
Hmm.
we can actually bring the heart into the equation.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what feels expansive and aligned with my true self?
Right.
Or what choice brings a sense of peace and joy?
So it's like checking in with our hearts, not just our heads.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the book emphasizes that the heart doesn't always lead us down the easiest path.
Yeah.
Sometimes it challenges us to step outside of our comfort zones,
Hmm.
to take risks and follow our passions, even when it feels scary.
That makes sense. I mean, if we're always playing it safe and making choices based on fear,
Yeah.
we might miss out on like the most fulfilling experiences that life has to offer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The book reminds us that the heart's wisdom is often guiding us toward our highest potential,
Hmm.
even when it leads us in directions that we didn't expect.
This is such a powerful reminder that we have this inner compass within us,
Yeah.
guiding us toward our most authentic and fulfilling lives. But I'm curious, how does this heart-centered approach apply to our relationships with other people?
Well, the book suggests that when we approach relationships from the heart, we're able to connect with others on a much deeper level.
Okay.
We're less likely to judge, criticize, or try to control them.
Hmm.
Instead, we see them with compassion, understanding, and a willingness to accept them for who they are.
So it's about moving beyond those like superficial layers and connecting with the essence of who they truly are.
Exactly.
Mm.
And the book emphasizes that the heart's wisdom allows us to see beyond our own limited perspectives
Right.
and to appreciate the unique beauty and value that each person brings to the world.
This is really challenging me to rethink how I approach my relationships.
Yeah.
It's not about, trying to change people or fit them into my expectations, but
Right.
about really appreciating them for who they truly are.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
And the book reminds us that when we approach relationships with an open heart, we create space for deeper intimacy, authenticity, and connection.
This has been such an incredible deep dive. We've explored so many profound ideas, from shifting our awareness to the heart and belly to embracing love as an outward flow to tapping into this wisdom of the heart.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It really has. And what's truly remarkable is that the book suggests that this heart-centered way of living isn't just some abstract concept,
Right.
but a path that we can all choose to embark on. It's about making those small shifts in our awareness, our choices, and our actions that gradually lead us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
That's the beauty of it.
I think what resonates with me the most is this idea that we all have this incredible source of wisdom and love within us just waiting to be discovered.
And that's the invitation of this book.
Mm.
It's an invitation to embark on a journey of self-discovery,
Mm-hmm.
to reconnect with our hearts, and to live a life that's more aligned with our deepest truths. It's about remembering who we truly are, beings of love capable of experiencing and expressing love in all that we do.
Well, this has been a truly enriching conversation. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and for helping us dive deep into living from the heart.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of you listening, we hope this deep dive has inspired you to explore the wisdom of your own heart and to discover the transformative power of living from a place of love, compassion, and connection. Until next time, keep diving deep.